Yes, this is full summer camp mode. Like,
The paneling on the walls is taking me out.
it's the paneling, it's the bunk beds behind me.
Oh, those are bunk. Do you have a bunkmate?
No, I think if you're over the age of 30 or no longer in college,
You're
you're
not allowed to
staying
have
with me.
a roommate at camp.
Sure, if I asked nicely enough, they would give me one, but I am very okay with already sharing a bathroom with like 25 other dudes.
Oh,
So
you're
my
also sharing a bathroom.
correct. It's like a large bathroom, so it's like dorm
Okay.
style. There is AC,
Do you have one
but
of those caddies? Shut up. I feel like we need to be clear. Adam is not at camp because he's like a participant of camp at 30 something years old. Adam is working at camp for the
yes,
next how long? 2 months? 3 months?
it is a total of 7 weeks, so about six
Okay.
more weeks. But I can tell you, I've been here 3.5 days. Sam, if you had told me I'd been here for the past 5 months of my life, I would actively believe you. Like,
I
the
mean,
time is moving different.
hours of icebreakers and like it is just you have to get to know everybody so fast because you're living together for that amount of time.
Mhm.
I did not go to Jewish summer camp. It was just not in the cards for me. I am very much a homebody. I don't camp. I'm not a camper. I'm not someone who enjoys sleep. You're not even sleeping outdoors, but like I wouldn't want to
None of
I
that.
just wouldn't. And so I didn't do camp in that way. I did like day camps, but it
Right.
was like tennis and pool camp. I just didn't go to sleepaway camp unless it was soccer camp in high school.
This, like, they're trying to make like an options like so you don't have to go if you like to decide between like a soccer camp or like a Jewish summer camp.
Hmm.
That's like where this comes in as like this
Oh,
blend. So the kids
I
play
like that.
sports with like D1 athletes as their
Oh,
coaches
wow.
for like 6 hours a day. And my job is gonna be running around the camp all the time, taking videos and editing them and making like fun content for the camp and like being just like a resource because like all of these guys, keep calling them kids, they're 18, 19,
They're kids.
but I
Compared to
know
you, you're 30 something years old at camp.
it's like I don't understand half the terms. There's just like what's in, what's at, skididity boodity doo, like oh
How many
wow.
times have you heard 6, 7?
Okay, so it's called 6 points, but nobody's brought up 6, 7. But apparently, once the kids get here, like all of our chants, everything starts with
Yeah.
six. So apparently, that's about to be like nonstop
Hmm.
in my life.
Yeah, you're gonna
And
wake up in the middle of the night and just hear like on repeat 6, 7, 6, 7, 6. It's gonna be like running on repeat through your brain.
oh my gosh, I'm like simultaneously, this has been so much fun, like fun, exhausted.
Yeah, I bet you are
And
exhausted.
I like this is like there's journalism exhausted in like our normal world, which is like I'm stressed, but I'm focused. This is like stress is no part of my life. It's just like, oh my God, they want me to do another fun thing. Like we had a singing dance competition yesterday, and then we had like color wars the day before. So we're going from these like really intense, serious like discussions on like how to be around children, conversations that will come up, like all these complex things, and then it's like,
Mm.
okay, now learn a song and a dance together, and I'm just like,
SOS. And also to be clear, you are an extrovert as a human being. I would
exactly.
consider myself an introverted extrovert, but you in the time that I have known you, I know that you are always doing something social at all times. There's no down. So for you to say that this is exhausting socially tells me everything I need to know about summer camp.
Like, oh my God, Sam, when we were in the like Jewish hookup conversation,
What
like,
is, first of all, what is that?
so you've never heard of like, oh, that one time at band camp kind of
Oh, yeah.
situation?
Yeah.
Same thing with Jewish summer camp. Like all of those stereotypes still apply. These
But just a
kids,
Jewish summer camp.
it's just Jewish, and
Oh,
like maybe there's like a little bit of a like make sure you're building those deep romantic and like platonic connections because like there's not that many of us. So it's like, how do you find that? Like my first kiss was at Jewish summer camp. Like most of my
was
first
it
sexual
really?
experiences. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Shout
Was
out
it
to
magical?
Grandma's. No, because it's like 15 of your friends. Like it was at the end of Rat Race. Like,
What is
there's
rat
no
race?
the movie?
Oh, oh. I thought it was a camp activity.
It's like fair.
It's
Like
like,
the
what is
names,
rat race?
it's there's so yeah, it's like, okay, when can they like kiss and like how do we teach them about consent and like all of the gossip? They're always trying to figure out like which counselors are dating. And I'm just like, my God, this is insane that
There's not like a counselor.
and I just got a notification about a bear sighting near the front of the camp. This is my life right now.
You better close those barn doors to your cabin.
Sheesh. Like they kind of keep saying like, it's like make sure you don't like run in like that's one of the hookup things. Like don't let them run into the woods. There's bears. And everyone like all the counselors that were campers like, ha ha ha, we always did that and there's never bears. And
No, they're literally bears.
no, like real talk, bears. Asheville, North Carolina, bears.
But like, what a cool place to be at summer camp and to spend the next 7 weeks. And I know that you're doing this as part of your entry into sabbatical round 2. Do you feel like this was the right move?
I think it was the right move because it's just forcing me to be younger. Like in a way of like mentality, like it's making all the creative juices flowing. Like when was the last time you played handball or like created a lip sync to like a pop song? Like the way and like also a lot of these activities are built around like, look, this is a generation that only has ever had social media, has only ever had like all of these different technologies. So there's a lot of conversations we have to have about like paying attention, like stare into somebody's eyes for 3 minutes and like try not to say anything or like look away or listen to somebody for 3 minutes and reflect what they're saying back to you. So like we have to do all these like attention activities, which are kind of nice to go back to, and like trust activities and thinking about the best way like you lead. How do you lead when it comes to trying to create trust? Are you an empathy person, a logic person? Like some of them are really, really cool. But also I have not had a second to catch my thoughts. But this was 1,000% the right move because I feel change happening of like, I'm trying to get stressed about something. Like my brain wants to be stressed and nothing here is life or death. Nothing here is that deep. My only job is to make sure there's content of kids to keep parents happy. Like that's it.
That's it. You know, it's so interesting that you brought up the point about finding play. And something you said in our first episode was that you wanted to reconnect with your creativity and your goofiness and the things that make you you. So it's interesting to hear you talking about feeling younger, and especially in an industry where we were tapped and poked and prodded to be older for so long.
How like journalism will age you and all those things.
Yeah, it's so. I saw a post on social media from, you know who Deborah Alfarone is?
No, actually.
Okay. She does a lot of she was, first of all, she was at CBS. She did a ton of stints in local news. She's like a DC kind of well known in the local sphere, especially among women, because she does a lot of coaching for on-air talent.
Oh, nice.
And she posted this carousel or this reel or something. The kids would tell me what it is. And it was her headshots from when she like started in journalism to now, and how everyone's telling her she looks younger. And she's like, yeah, because they wanted us to look so old.
Remember your short hair?
Well, it's short again, but yes, I do. Now it's like mom short. It's like mom short. But yes, there was this emphasis on looking older and acting older than you were because you wanted people to believe you and you wanted people to trust what you were telling them.
Like dropping your voice a little bit more. The new game is like, Adam, use your news anchor voice.
Do you? Have you done it for them?
Look, you got to give the people what they want every now and then. Like,
Trick.
They also kind of like, I'm still kind of like random unk over there, which apparently means old. And
you look young and fresh, by the way. You look like you're at camp.
Thank you. Someone told me I look like I fit in.
You do.
I don't know how I feel about that because it implies that I inherently don't. However,
well, compared to like 15-year-olds, that's pretty good.
Like, look, I'm not gonna look 21 again. I'm not gonna look 20.
No, I've never. That ship has sailed I think for both of us.
So far, I am waiting waiting for the day that like an 18-year-old looks up to me. It's like, you have amazing skin. What's your skincare routine? Things that will not happen from 18-year-old boys, but if that ever happens,
Never know. Never know.
hmm
Listen, I'll pat you on the back. I have things for you to be stressed about if you feel like you want
oh
to
my
be
God,
stressed.
what's happening in the world,
We can
fam?
talk about the world. We've been talking about this nonstop about what's going on at 60 Minutes. I feel like when celebrities do something and you feel like you just have to know every detail.
There are always those stories like the Scandavals of the world, and you're just like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
get them.
See, and my Scandival is what's going on at CBS. And I just can't
It's
get
not
enough of it. And like that's the nerdiest thing I could have had. My Scandival is what's going on at CBS. But it's true. As somebody who is now on the perimeter of the news world and spent a lot of time in the news world, and now you're at camp, so you really are in a bubble. It is one of the most dramatic things that we have seen in a while. And it has been like this slow build into an eruption of the last couple of weeks. And 60 Minutes just seems like it is imploding, which
It's crazy.
crazy.
Like that is like going to journalism school. Like
Mhm.
anytime someone mentions 60 Minutes, it's just like holy grail of journalism. Like if you reach there, you can like you have made it. Like I think Scott Pelley, and even one of the clips I saw was like, "There's nowhere else. Like this is it." Like and so yeah, I've just seen a couple headlines, but
It's
what's been
crazy.
touching you?
It is. I mean, don't you feel like when you think about when you were in J school, what were the programs that you thought of as being the tippy top? Obviously, 60 Minutes.
It was 60, the nightly broadcasts, like
Mhm.
the nightlies, evening news,
Yeah.
morning shows,
2020,
2020,
2020.
Dateline.
It's all of those. It's the shows where you feel like you're getting a longer look or a feature length look. Now, you have Netflix and we have documentaries and we have all these different things, but 60 Minutes is still that institution you get once a week and you feel like you get a deep dive into something that's happening right now. And it doesn't take, we could go on a tangent about Murdoch and all of the docu-series that have come out about that, but that takes years sometimes to produce. And this is a program that comes on every single week.
And they give correspondent like it's known for like giving correspondents times and resources. Like they
Hmm.
get the best correspondents from every network and like wherever they want really, because that's where everyone wants to work. And it's always been known. Like the journalism rumor mill like has always kind of informed me that 60 Minutes is this extremely intense journalistic environment. Like I've worked with people that have worked there, and like all of them have amazing lessons, but they all say like that was a really intense period of my life, really proud of the work I did, and now we see this.
Yeah. So for anyone who is just kind of jumping into the deep, let's jump into the deep end. I'm going to give you the timeline of, I'm going to try and consolidate it as best I can because so much has happened. But I think in the last 2 years, we've seen this enormous build into what I am deeming as the implosion. And as Scott Pelley has called it in his interview this week, the murder of his family at 60
This
Minutes.
man chooses words.
Yeah. And he said, I know I'm using hyperbolic language. He says, I know I'm using, but that's the only way to capture the gravity of what is happening in this newsroom. So let's start at,
Yeah.
let's run it back to 2024. There's this big lawsuit Trump files against CBS and its parent company, Paramount. And essentially, Paramount settles
Okay.
with Trump.
Mhm.
And Pelly goes on the air and says Paramount is supervising our content, but nothing has been pulled, nothing's been blocked. We are still independent journalists. But then when the settlement happens with Trump over this Kamala Harris interview, then the
Oh yeah, the one
merger
that was like
goes through.
edited, like the allegations of her editing
Mhm.
and the releasing of the transcript, that whole thing.
Yes, that whole thing. And then that's when the Paramount Skydance merger goes through. And obviously, it looks like the settlement had to happen, aka the bribe. The settlement had to happen for the FCC to clear the merger. So this merger happens. David Ellison son of Oracle owner Larry Ellison. He becomes the chairman and CEO. Already you're like, okay, here we go. A bajillionaire in charge, bajillionaires in charge of CBS News.
We have seen people with lots of amount of money take over news organizations in the past.
Yes.
And present.
Washington Post, another great example. So that's August of 2025 is when that merger closes. I quite literally have a timeline because this is so extensive. In October of 25, so what's that, like 8 months ago-ish?
Yeah.
This is all so recent. Barry Weiss gets installed as the editor-in-chief at CBS. Barry Weiss, for anyone who doesn't know, is a former New York Times opinion columnist. She left the New York Times, essentially claiming, I'm trying to remember, it was biased. She felt like they were left-leaning, and
she's a queer Jewish woman.
She's a queer Jewish woman. Yeah. And so she and her wife and her sister then started the Free Press. This was like 2021. And the Free Press is meant to be this anti-legacy media publication. It has exploded in the last 3-4 years. It's done very, very well. So she gets installed as the CBS News editor-in-chief. And at the same time, Ellison then acquires the Free Press for 150 mil, just a light 150 mil.
Well, no, because I think technically didn't he like acquire the Free Press and then with that you get Barry Weiss? Yeah.
Yeah. So she gets installed as, yes, correct. That's a better timeline. She gets installed as editor-in-chief. And that's when she starts to overhaul things. Mm-hmm. So that's when you see CBS Evening News. It's like you start to see the dominoes beginning to fall. You see the CBS Evening News get shaken up. And just then, like say that again?
Like a drip, like.
Oh, yeah. It's you start to see the things are happening. And let's also be clear, Barry Weiss getting put into this broadcast position, all of these correspondents are looking at her and being like, so what's your broadcast experience? Where is it? Don't see it. Haven't heard of it. She's a huge name in journalism, right? Like she's done these incredible big things. But in terms of broadcast, nothing. So I'll try and speed this up. Then there's the CCOT interview. Do you remember the CCOT story where 60 Minutes, Barry Weiss pulls this story that was hours from air? This was December. It was Sharon Alfonsi's story. Sharon Alfonsi is one of the correspondents who has since been let go. Barry Weiss pulls this hours before air. And think about 60 Minutes and the editorial oversight that has to go into a story being produced and aired. That story, Alfonsi claims, was airtight, ready to go. And her producer, right? Ready to go.
To chime in, like I have not seen the process at CBS, but I've seen it at CNN and other institutions. Like the amount of, on anything investigative, the amount of lawyers and like ethics specialists and like all these people in these like legacy news organizations, like there are so many steps, like people are literally taking a red pen through every line of scripts. So the fact that an hour before air, when everything's already done and exported, changing that is great.
And pulling it entirely and saying this isn't ready. So then there's the claim that it is not pro-Trump, and therefore that's why it was pulled. There's that claim out there. Blah, blah, blah. 2 more months, 3 more months goes by. Then we have this big mass firing. You have Tanya Simon, the executive producer. You have Sharon Alfonsi, the one on the CCOT story, Cecilia Vega. All of these people go down at once. And there's no explanation. The newsroom is reeling. Barry Weiss then installs Nick Bilton as the new EP. And they have this big contentious meeting. Pelley essentially calls him out. And post-meeting, Pelley gets fired by news leadership. Also, Anderson Cooper left during all of this time, voluntarily.
Yeah, he also, I remember his like on-air thing that I would imagine CBS was not thrilled that he did.
Right. So all of these things are happening. Pelley then gets fired. Pelley's been there for almost 4 decades. When I think of the institution of 60 Minutes, I think of Scott Pelley. And his voice, even listening to it as he's doing his interview post-mortem about getting fired, I'm like, am I watching 60 Minutes? It is synonymous with the program. So they claim that Pelley was hostile. Pelley is essentially calling Barry Weiss a liar. Like there's all of this back and forth that's so dramatic. But I think the biggest thing that I have taken from listening to Pelley's interview is, and I'll be curious to hear what you think, They all felt so blindsided, and all they wanted was an explanation from Barry Weiss, from Nick Bilton, who also, by the way, does not have broadcast television experience. And they all just wanted to understand, you canned a third of the correspondent core. Why? Why? What is the reasoning? What's the direction forward? And I don't think anybody feels like they got that.
That is something that I've experienced in news organizations where it's like there's a massive change and there's no explanation, like there's no good opportunities to ask why. And it always blows my mind because I'm like, you have hired me or us or any other journalist to ask questions, to like to go to the powerful and say, hey, this doesn't feel right. This is what's going on. These are the questions people have. And the fact that an institution that like celebrates that, we're hearing people say that's not what's happening, is just really a not great example for smaller newsrooms. Other newsrooms, legacy media organizations. And something we were talking about is like, I don't know Scott Pelley. I've never worked with Scott Pelley. I highly doubt he wants to be in the news cycle. Like, I highly doubt his idea going into that meeting was like, I'm going to make news. People are going to pay attention to this. Like, this is going to be a big story. He probably was just like, there were stories I was working on that I wanted to get on air. And I remember like late night hosts talking about this too. I think Stephen Colbert with his whole CBS journey. It's like, there's staffs that don't have that name recognition, that have worked there for just as long, been just that dedicated, the producers behind the scenes, the investigators, the fact checkers, who for them, like they don't have that financial support probably. Like, this is job, this is health insurance, this is how they support their families. And it sounds to me like Scott Pelley was kind of speaking on behalf of all of them and being like, hey, yeah, maybe I'll be okay at the end of this. But like, that's not the case for everyone.
Yeah. And also, he talked about in that meeting, he looks around in this initial meeting with Nick Bilton when he gets fired, he gets fired after this meeting, but he describes looking around at the people in this room who he calls his family. And he realizes he's the most senior person in the room and he's the only correspondent because everybody is out working on a story. And he feels this need and this responsibility to speak up on behalf of these people who he knows they can't do that and risk losing their jobs. So he also said that he didn't think he was going to walk into the meeting with leadership and get fired. Also, Barry Weiss was not at the initial meeting with Nick Bilton and the staff. Barry Weiss was in the meeting with CBS leadership and Pelley when after that he gets fired. But he's asking these questions of Barry Weiss. He's saying, we just want some answers. Why did you fire Sharon Alfonsi? Why is Cecilia Vega? Why are all these people gone? And she says, I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to answer that. So you feel, and I know I felt this way too, and I think you brought up a really good point. There's this sense in newsrooms, and I think it's a management tactic, that to retain control of their people, they have to keep them in the dark, which is so contrary to how anybody should be treated in any workplace. But I've experienced that firsthand. There's no information. We can't tell you why this person or that person has been let go. But hey, go on doing your job the same way. Make sure you go on air and act like everything is fine and you are 100% pulled together.
And then we do.
Right. And then we do. And you're crying in the passenger seat of a car between live shots. Like, how many times have you cried in the passenger seat of a car between live shots?
Worse when you cry in a live van because there's so much space and like there's nowhere. I remember there was a couple moments where I was just like, looked at my cameraman and I was like, I am so sorry. I need to find a way to scream into a void somehow in the middle of this.
Do you have a pillow? Can I scream into your pillow in this van?
The answer is yes, because cameramen are the best.
I vividly remember crying during a nor'easter. I was 20-something weeks pregnant. I know. So sad. I was 20-something weeks.
In a blizzard.
That's a great question. Let's ask management. I just remember I was not yet, to your point, I was not supposed to be outside. I was not supposed to be outside that day. I got sent outside that day. And I just remember being on this really slippery concrete platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an executive producer who was asking me to do some things that were dangerous, and I was saying no. And I felt like I just remember being like, is this person asking me to choose between the safety of my unborn child and my job? Is that the ask? And I do my live shot. I'm struggling to stay on my feet. The wind is so crazy. I'm slipping and sliding. I tell my photographer, I need to go take a break in the car. And God bless photographers. Can we just say, God bless them, because he put me in the safest spot he could have. And he told everyone back in our newsroom, we're not moving from this spot. This is the safest location. We're on high ground, and I have some shield for her. And this is where we're staying. I'm not moving the camera. You can attribute that decision to me. I love that man. I will forever love that man. I got back in the car though after that live shot, and I bawled my eyes out because I just felt so, it was very much that mandate feeling of like, you have to do it or you're not doing your job well. And I think that feeling in our industry right now is pervasive.
I felt that way a lot with door knocking, especially. This is something a lot of people don't know about or think about. When something happens bad in a neighborhood, a crime, a shooting, a break-in, even sometimes, sadly, like domestic assault, you are asked at a lot of news organizations to knock on the doors of people in that neighborhood and try to get their take on what happened or try to get some more information that maybe the competitor or whatever didn't get. In many states, if you are on somebody's front doorstep and they feel like you are somehow of a threat, it is perfectly legal for them to shoot you or harm you in some way. And then sometimes the solution is like, oh, go in pairs of two. And it's one of those things that I'm like, I've very much so on many occasions been like, I do not feel safe in this neighborhood. You will not have a soundbite from somebody around here. I will not be knocking on these doors. I promise I will fill that minute and 30 seconds, whatever time you need, and it will be compelling television. But that was always a big line for me, especially in areas that, like, someone not walking a dog, amazing. But once you get on their turf, I don't like that.
It's so scary. And that the trade-off of being like, I will literally talk out of my ass for a minute and a half so that I don't have to knock on this door and potentially get shot today.
Even if I have 3 sentences from police,
that's a story.
Yeah.
That's a story.
Anything. I mean, it sounds bad, but that is what we do. We have to take the information available and we have to present it in the most compelling way possible. And like, thankfully, that is a skill I feel really strong I've developed, taught partially by you on how to make salad out of anything. And like, I always have to guarantee, look, if you hate what this is, reprimand me. Like, do what you do, but I feel that confident in my ability to make this work. And it really takes that much like strength of character in a newsroom, because also producers, like, to their credit, an EP, a lot of time they don't spend much time in the field. They don't know what it's like 100%. Maybe they do theoretically to be out in a blizzard, a hurricane, a wildfire, chasing tornadoes. I've had instances, Sam, where I have like been tracking a tornado with like a cameraman and like a truck. And so like thankfully I shared with the meteorologist my location, and we were sent to a spot before the tornado got there. So we were literally just waiting, like, to get, and the meteorologist thankfully like called me and was like, go anywhere else.
Like, crawl in a ditch, do
Like,
anything.
we were 10-15 minutes away from like literally being at an impact site, and I was just like, guys, I know we wanted to get the great shot, but like, I am not a storm hunter, like, with this gear. Like, this was not, we were.
What is it worth to you? Truly, is it worth the cost of a life? And I think this push toward, and it speaks broadly to what's going on at CBS. They're consolidating clearly. I mentioned the Washington Post and everything that happened there. They consolidated drastically. They cut, I think, all of their video journalists, or almost all of them, in the last few years. That's a whole topic for another time. But what people may not know about the industry is that these jobs are becoming consolidated. And so it means that you take on so many different roles. And it might be that in a small market, I just think about the kids who are starting out in like I don't know, Oklahoma or Nebraska, and they're tracking storms by themselves as
I pray for
MMJs
that.
or multimedia journalists, and they are carrying their own equipment and they're driving around in a, a news car.
Like
You're
there's
just
a lot
setting
of
them up for
very
failure.
petite women who like have great careers out of them, but right now they're still very green. They want to
Mhm.
impress. And so yeah, they'll say I'll put the 60 pounds of gear on my back and do what I need to do. I think a lot of organizations have hopefully, like at least the ones I've been in recently, that has been like a red line that they would set. But I have heard of other people being like, yeah, can you just like go check that out? One of those stories was when I was down in Tucson for Nancy Guthrie coverage.
Hmm.
There were so many solo MMJs, multimedia
Really?
journalists,
On the
covering
Guthrie
one of
case?
the biggest international stories. I like some from top three markets. Will not call out stations, but I was just
I would, but
shocked.
I don't know them. Yeah, that's so, I mean, first of all, to be on a story like that and to not know the danger potentially in those early days,
It was a
that's
manhunt.
terrifying to me. It was a manhunt. Yeah, it was a manhunt. And I want to get, you were there, the deep dive of the case. We've been talking about this week because Savannah Guthrie went back to work within the last, I think, couple of months. She's still pretty fresh, and she did this interview with Jenna Bush Hager on Jenna's show. I think it's like the third or the fourth hour
Yeah.
on
Which
NBC
I
in the
didn't know
mornings.
they were like the amount of time they called because that was a quick 6 minute one, really great interview. But I didn't realize that they interview more conversation. I think they presented it as such. That like all of the time they were like besties, were sisters, and been
Yeah.
watching both of them for years. And I knew like we kind of like through WIS, Craig, like we kind of feel Craig Melvin, we feel like maybe like okay, we kind of understand a little bit of the dynamic and like we know they're all great people. We know most of them get along really well. But to be like, you're my sister and I knew I couldn't get on this and talk to you about this without just bawling when she has done reports on it in the past couple of weeks is mind-boggling.
Yeah, that was crazy to me. I thought the same thing. I think I knew they were close, but I didn't realize just how close. And she got on and with Jenna and they talked about how it's been for her getting back to work. And Savannah is such an interesting journalist in so many ways. And to watch her come back from this has been truly, I think, as a journalism, if you're a journalism student and you're watching Savannah Guthrie, talk about not wanting the story to be about you.
Yes, that is a perfect example. Like, and I know she's even gotten criticism, be like, "Oh, you're talking about it." Like, no, people want to know this was a major national story for weeks and weeks and weeks. If she was anybody else, she would be on every morning show telling her story if she wanted to.
Absolutely. Okay, bring us up to speed on what's going on because you were there when it broke, and I feel like I have lost track because it was in the headlines for months and then it just kind of disappeared.
It was the same way it felt in the newsroom, which is kind of the weird part. We were all hands on deck. And then all of a sudden, it was like we're pulling everybody from it because it just so clearly to us at the time felt cold. So yeah, let me bring you guys kind of up to date on the latest that's happened. The SparkNotes version is there really is no new leads, major leads in the investigation. There is nothing that police or the sheriff's department down there, I should say, are really putting out that has given people much hope. I know that the sheriff was kind of on the chopping block for a little bit because of forms he had filled out when he was applying for this job about his conduct at other departments in the past or how he had kind of acted or presented his experiences. But still in the job, Sheriff Chris Nanos, and just like thinking about the fact that they had all the resources in the world. So you were saying bring it back. Let me rewind. So still don't know too much. There's a bunch of like be on the lookout stuff. So where Nancy Guthrie lived, and also I didn't realize Savannah's childhood home until very recently.
Oh, that
That
was your
was
childhood home?
that was her childhood home.
I didn't
And
know
the
that.
fact that I so for 3 days, and that was like we kind of rotated. I was there from like the third day after she went missing through like the fifth or the sixth. And so it was still kind of early. National outlets were just now, like, they hadn't quite deployed the resources, but they were on their way. And I would say for the first 48 hours of 24 at least of that investigation, we kind of thought it was a silver alert. Silver alert being when an elderly person is missing, a lot of times wandering off, a lot of times very sadly kind of dementia, mental health related, confusion. So I think it was treated like that to the point there was no crime tape when I got there on day 3. You could just walk up
Day 3.
right to the doorstep where there was blood splatter. And like up until the fact that there was a like on that day at some point, like when the sun came up, then there was like a private security person that we had kind of assumed at the time was through Savannah's family or her husband or something like that. But that was really it.
To bring it back to Savannah,
Yes.
because I think when I was watching that interview, she does her job with so much grace. And I think back to, what was the interview she did with Trump? It was before the election this last time. Or was it the election this last time, or was it, I can't even remember if it was his first presidency. I don't remember. Either way, she is such a strong-willed human. She's such a strong journalist. And to see her then take on the strength of not knowing where her mother is and to come to work every day and to report. And she, if you watch her, she puts on a smile during the stories that bring her joy. And she clearly loves Craig and Dylan and Al. It's so clear that she gets so much joy. And she talks about the emotional weight of coming back to work and how difficult it is. She cries on the way in, she cries on the way home. But while she's there, she's trying so hard to be present. And she's like, if anyone else is going through something like this, like, just watch me and I am going to live in the joy.
That quote honestly kind of made me tear up a little bit. Like, it was one of those things that I was like, this is, like, that's class right there. And that was the other weird part. Like, we were covering the mother and the tragedy of, like, someone I had looked up to. Savannah has been on the Today Show. For the majority of time, I have been watching the Today Show. Like, it was crazy because you're just like, I'm digging into somebody's life as we do when these things kind of happen. But it felt it felt really intimate. It felt, not for the first time, but I mean, I felt like I was intruding on like an icon. And I was like, I have so much reverence for this person that I feel really bad, like knocking on in-laws' doors, for example.
And don't you feel like, I remember this from like a day turn being a story that you are going out that morning and you're gathering the interviews and you're cutting it by the end of the day, doing a live shot or whatever the end of your day is. And sometimes in a day turn setting, you can get almost dissociated from the story or the people because you get so concerned about the deadline and picking the right bites and setting up the story. And you get worried about the time. How much time do I have to interview? How much time do I have to cut? How much time do I have to prep myself for a live shot? And you forget that there's a person probably living the worst day of their life. And you are reporting on it. And meantime, you're planning what you're going to do for dinner later. And there's that element of dissociation that I think with a story like someone like Savannah, you can't take yourself out of it because you relate so much to her. And gosh, I think to button it up, I think we have so much reverence for her. And I hope so much that somebody says something. And she keeps repeating that. She's like, somebody knows something and somebody. As we were talking about all of this today, I just was wondering if you were in journalism school right now as a student and looking at everything that's going on at CBS and watching the Today Show and the way that they gathered around Savannah, like two very opposite things are happening, right? Like you see this team corralling around her and then you see the implosion of this incredible network show. What are you thinking as a broadcast journalism student in this moment? Are you like, how am I getting into this? Can I get into this? Is the tip, I mean, for us, we were like, oh, it's the top of the ladder. We want to get to the network. And you worked at the network. So I'm just curious your take on, if you were a student right now, how would you feel?
What's crazy is like the first day of journalism school that I had was a slide. There was a slide that says "We're not dead yet" with a video from the Monty Python skit. Um, and so like that has been the conversation for ages. But I think it is making a point that I don't love over and over again that I'm seeing kind of with these 18 to 20-year-olds. Many of them want to work in media in some regard, which is why go, like, why do anything but do my own thing? Like, why I have my own account, I have my own followers, I know what I like to talk about, why do anything else? Which makes me sad because yes, even though we're doing this, even though we're both not working in newsrooms, I know what I learned by being in that collaborative environment. And those were the skills that like I'm excited for reporters and future journalists to have, like learning that teamwork, learning that collaboration, using different gear, reporting on things that you aren't comfortable with, reporting on things that you don't find interesting. Like you don't find every bake sale, memorial, whatever, like you have to make something that you might not find interesting to others. And as I've tried to like be like, yeah, and that's why I loved this, they're all like, okay, Unc, that's cool.
Okay, Unc.
And I'm just
You
like,
old.
I'm like,
Yes, I do. I was
born in
alive. Thank you
2008.
very much. Although, to be fair, we were pretty young.
I was in second grade. There's a
Yeah, I was
working
in third.
memory, but still, anyway.
I know. I know. You know, I think at the end of the day, it's hard because I think we probably both left J school. I'm sure there were issues 10 years ago, 15 years ago when we were leaving J school and we just were naive to them and, you know, blindsided or blind to them or whatever. But I think now it's almost like they're being hit in the face with them. So I'm like, if you go into this, you know exactly what you're getting into now. Whereas I think back in our day, I think I remember, yeah, I remember a video journalist from CNN coming to visit one of our classes. And I remember her talking about how this was kind of the new thing, backpack journalism. And it's, you know, so incredible and you can go everywhere. And I was like, wow, this is so cool, you know? And now the thought of
to be the future.
it was supposed to be the future. And here we are. Here we are. And you still, when you climb to the tippy top of the local newsletter, all you want is a photographer. That's all you want. That means you've made it. You're like, please, someone shoot my live shot because I physically cannot.
Like,
I just can't. I can't. Anyway, there are some beautiful things about local news, and I know that we spent a lot of time in this episode talking about the negatives, but one of the things that I loved doing with you at our former shop in Columbia at WIS was we did lots of good news on Mort 4. And I loved when you brought the idea of closing out our podcast on some good news.
Shout out to my friend Nick for being like, please end your pod with an extra dose of positivity. So
I need
naturally, because I know how much Sam loves ending anything with a good animal story, I looked around some of the local sites and I found one that titled Oklahoma Family Rescues Stray Cat with Litter of 6 Kittens and a Baby Bunny. And while
read it to us, read us an excerpt.
That's the thing. Here's the lead. What started with a stray cat showing up on a porch has turned into an unlikely rescue story involving 5 kittens and an unexpected addition to the litter. About 2 months ago, Kathy Price heard meowing outside her home and went to investigate. I went outside to see. I opened the door to bring her some cat food, and she ran into the house. Taking in stray cats is her normal. And then the new arrival, a tortoiseshell cat, quickly appeared comfortable around people. But soon, Price realized the cat was pregnant and set up a box with towels for her on the porch. Lo and behold, they somehow had a baby bunny appear in there. The quote goes, "We were checking on the kittens, and my husband said, 'How many kittens did she have?' And I said, 5. He said, 'There's 6 in there.' And I looked and I said, 'That's a bunny.'" So,
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
There's the bunny.
Bunny.
That's the interview you want.
Oh my God.
With the lady that found the cat with the bunny.
If you had asked that lady who found the bunny, what would be like your one question to her?
Did you think it was a cat? Like, truly, did you think it was a cat? When did you realize it was a bunny?
You're like, also, like, have you come up with any, like, I would love, like, the money bite on that interview would probably come from, like, how do you think, like, the cats and bunnies get along? Or, like, how do you
Yes.
think the bunny found the cat?
Or like, what was the moment? What do you remember feeling the
If you
moment you
remember
realized?
feeling.
What was the feeling that you had when you realized that there was a bunny in the litter of kittens? What was that feeling? What was going through your head? I loved that question. What was going through your head when?
Sam, a pleasure,
Always.
as always,
I adore
for
you.
making time in your hectic day with Teddykins.
Oh yeah, he's still asleep
Oh,
somehow, some
oh my
way.
God.
I know.
Good
Listen, we
job.
went to the park. I wore him out. I tuckered him out. I put him down. I said, that's it, dude. You're snoozing for the next 2.5 hours because mama's got to hop on and yap with Unk. With Unk.
Last aside, and then we will close off. Educating one of these like 18, 19-year-olds, they were like, I think trying to come up with a nickname for something, and they were like, we're gonna call you Twunk. And I was like,
I don't like that.
do we know what this means? Like, let's break that down. And they're like, you're like a twink. And I'm like, first of all, we will get to that conversation. And an unk, and like uncle or like older guy. And I was like, so that means like a twink hunk. So like you're calling me like, thankfully, like an attractive, young looking, muscular guy. So thank you, but I don't think you mean it in that way. So, like, in the term of like a gay subculture, and they're like, okay, we'll call you brunk, like a bro unk. And I was like, still love the compliment. That sounds like shit.
That does not sound good. I worry about this generation a little bit because think about that age. I was on like MySpace at that age. And if just think about the immediacy and the ability that they have to publish things online that will follow them forever. Like my top 8 friends, nobody cared.
They don't, they get it, and they don't, like, we'll do these
Yeah.
meetings where they like talk about, like, consciously, they know all the things that are bad with social media. Like, also, first of all, like, to any parent listening, I'm talking to like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 year olds without phones, without distractions. So,
Well, there's no phones.
no, counselors are allowed phones, but not out in like public. So,
Oh.
uh,
Wait, that's great. Nobody pitched this pod on all of our social media. I realized this morning, I was like, did I ever post our last social media thing on the TikTok? And I'm like, there's so many accounts now. Pretty sure I didn't. But we do now have a TikTok. Nobody pitched this pod on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, where you can watch this whole thing. Yeah. This has been, we're pulling it together. By the way, if you're a journalism friend listening to this, we got some great feedback on the first one and would love your takes as we continue to do this because we're just wilding out, as the kids say.
that
I don't think they
is
say that
not,
anymore.
they do not say that, but I will
I was
update
like,
you on what they
that
do.
was us. Let us know what they say. It's a lot of 6'7".
6'7". God bless.
6'7",
Next
Adam.
week there will be children running around, so, and not just a lawnmower. Until then,
Good luck with the Bears. Mwah.
Good luck with the
Safe.
different kind of bears than maybe in the past. Bye.